Hello. In this video screencast, I'm going to go over some of the technical aspects of my project thus far, a bit of a layout and overview of my code base, and some of the technical challenges that I've faced thus far. So let's begin and let's fire up my application. I'm going to go into the directory in which my project lives. And fire it up. Awesome. So now we see here that my app is listening on port 3000. So I can just go to any browser and type that in. Great. So right here we have a layout of the first iteration of this virtual tour, and it opens to the Commons Hedge pathway that I created this past week. And as you can see, it's just a nav bar, a login button, a drop down with the other tours, and we'll go through. So as you scroll, we get to our Google Earth movie, which takes us from Commons to Hedge Hall. And then as we continue to scroll, we get to some of the Matterport spaces that I've embedded using iframe tags. And if we continue to Hedge Hall, the same thing applies. For Hedge Hall, and I touched on this in my blog post, I actually decided to create a walking tour from a highlight reel, which actually takes you from space to space. And the reason I decided to do this was because it's not an open area, and it's kind of confusing or easy to get lost when moving around the building. And I obviously want to be able to ensure that tour visitors or prospective students are finding the content that I've embedded. Yeah, so that's Hedge Hall. I'm not going to go through it, but yeah, so this is a sample pathway that I have. I'm planning on adding a home screen as well, because I've gone over with some people, and I think it'd be beneficial to sort of explain what it is that the tour and we're aiming to do, and also it would make more sense for this video to be on there as well. And great. So now that we've seen sort of what the final product looks like, let's go over some of the code. So I mentioned this in my last video, but I built this as a Handlebars Express application, Handlebars being the templating engine that serves my front end, and Express being my back end or my server. So the name of this folder is Dream School, and currently I have a few views. I have home, which is actually the only view I have right now, and I have main.hps, which is sort of where everything trickles down from. You could sort of think of this as like a tree structure, where main.hps is the base, and everything, every other template is just filler that goes in this body. So for instance, if I want my nav bar to be on every screen and not have to retype it in, I put it in my main HBS, which can be seen here. And then all of this stuff gets served on every page, and this body tag includes sort of the different pages that correspond to a different route. So in my home.hbs, which is the screen that can be seen here. I tried to implement a parallax scrolling effect, which is basically what you can see here. I think it's a good way to sort of showcase beautiful pictures, which is one of the things that I wanted to include, because again, we're trying to give not only tours of the inside of buildings, but also give some insight as to what the outside of campus looks like as well. So this parallax scrolling effect is basically just an effect that is implemented using JavaScript and CSS, and it's pretty cool. It basically just makes it so that the page moves almost over the image, and the image location is fixed on the page. So you actually scroll above it, but the image itself doesn't move. And so I'll kind of go over that. I embedded a YouTube video, the Matterport scans, and yeah. And so this is actually easy. I did it in such a way that it sort of forms a template. So you can see it follows this pattern, right? We have picture, text, slash Matterport, picture, text. And so I did that because I wanted it to be replicable and also consistent with the other tours that I plan to have in the future. And so we do this by creating two sort of alternating sections. Section here, which is the class model parallax 1. So this is just the class name for module, and then it's parallax, and this one in particular is parallax 1. So these are the class names for this container, whereas this one is module, and the subclass name is just content. And so the CSS classes for these corresponding sections can be seen in public, style sheets, styles, CSS. And so the reason we do that is because in Handlebars, which is our templating engine, you have to serve all of your static HTML images and JavaScript in a public folder. It's just how it works. It's where it looks for these yeah, so we can go over this, the CSS that's required to give these effects. Basically, I just went through and set all of these: color, font size, background image for basically each of the sections. It sort of takes a lot of tinkering with, and one of the technical challenges I ran into was in my handlebars, this Max CDN Bootstrap. Bootstrap is another almost templating engine. I could show you what it is. Not templating engine. It's just it's basically just like a source code that provides you with elements to quickly use on your website that you don't want to spend time to sort of program yourself. Simple things like a nav bar or an alert or a card, for instance, drop downs, all of this stuff sort of already done for you, and it's pretty useful. But basically, to use it, you have to import this CDN, which is a link that allows you to use the source code at the bottom as in one of your script tags, and it actually has in its source code one of the same CSS classes that I was using. So I was unable to figure out why I couldn't get this this virtual tour to get the full width of the screen, and it was because the CDN was actually interfering with the CSS classes that I wrote and were overriding some of the functionality that I sort of wanted. So for example, this top nav bar is a Bootstrap component, and Bootstrap is just a combination of HTML, CSS, and jQuery, which allows you to basically easily use event handlers such as onClick or onHover like this to sort of make your website look good. Okay, so in this last part of the screen recording, I just wanted to go over some of the login stuff and the database. I briefly went over this last time, but I realized that I don't think I showed you guys how it actually works on the back end and how this data, user data, is actually useful to me. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm presenting to a group of faculty and potentially students, and they very well might want to be able to interface with someone who's touring, even if it is virtually. All data is useful data, and when it comes to prospective students, I think there could be some use in sort of sending along either like a sense of interest to the admissions office, or maybe just streamlining some of their questions to admissions. I'm not really sure where that lives yet, but the point being is if we go to this login with Facebook, it redirects us to a page. I went over that last time. And basically what happens here is that I've exported a MongoDB URI, which is just the name of my database URI. And how this works is in my app.js, you connect using OAuth, and code here is provided to you by Facebook to use their OAuth. And basically that URI that I pointed to goes to an MLab account, which I've created, and we can see here that these are the sessions or users that have been on my site. So it gives you a user ID, a session, or a cookie. And a cookie or a session is basically just like kind of exactly what it sounds like, a session or time that you are actually like logged in to the site. This is sort of the thing that allows you to like come back and be automatically logged in. And all of these URL parameters, which you could probably do some pretty cool stuff with using queries, and also a user ID and a date of expiration. So if you wanted to, per se, you could use this user ID to sort of send data back and forth across the server, maybe to admissions about how much time spent on the website, or questions that they might have. Maybe there could be a form for them to ask additional questions to what I've already provided in the Matterport scans, and then send them to admissions. Again, I haven't really spent too much time thinking about that. Just wanted to show that it's possible because I know it's something that might come up in the presentation later in the week. All right, well, that's all I have for this week, but thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned for more.